go. Welcome back to Beer Brackets, everybody. We were just talking about how much this bottle has traveled, right? The Weihenstephaner brewery coming from Freising, Germany, all the way to North America. First originally to Florida, where I purchased this on a recent trip down to visit Alessandro, and then all the way back up to Montreal, Canada, for us to review it here today, buddy. So it's quite the beer journey that it's been on.
Quintessential beer journey, my friend.
Quintessential, exactly.
And be here in our presence too, so that we can enjoy it together and have this great pub session together.
That's right, man. We've covered a couple of Weihenstephaner beers. We recently got to review the Vitus, which was incredible. Such a pleasure to review that beer. They already have one beer sitting on our Perfect Beer Roundtable. Today, the Doppelbock. The Korbinian. Finally, I've never tried this one. You've tried it a couple of times, right?
I have, yes. I'm familiar with it, but I'm excited because today you get to try it, so we get to experience it together, and not only experience it, but also review it, which is the quintessential beer experience, in my opinion.
Right, man. I'm so curious to see what a Weihenstephaner Doppelbock tastes like. Of course, everything that they do has that kind of like standard level of quality to it. What is their take on a Doppelbock? I cannot wait to see. So we have an interesting beer legend, my friend. I think I will pass over the beer legend baton to you, and I will let you get started with the interesting legend of Saint Korbinian.
So first of all, the important thing to mention is that the reason why this beer is named after Saint Korbinian, first of all, like he is the founder of what was the monastery that was erected on the Freising Hill that eventually became the Weihenstephaner brewery. Mm-hmm. That is, according to legend, which we know is the most reliable source of information, is the oldest brewery in the world, continuously operated, supposedly. So,
according to the beer scrolls found within the walls of the monastery.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So
the hop fields, the evidence of ancient hop fields on that site, predating any other hop fields.
So we choose to believe in this legend, and that's why we know where we will be in 2040 when we'll celebrate the 1,000-year anniversary of this brewery. So that's an
We'll be showing up with our walkers and our steins, ready to go, ready to drink some beer.
100%. As he was traveling from up north down to visit Rome and in a pilgrimage down to see the Pope, he was traveling with a few disciples, but he also had a horse that was carrying his luggage.
Was it a horse? Okay, it was a horse.
Yeah, he had a horse that he was traveling
with. The legend I read just said animals. It was very vague.
Yeah.
Probably pulling the beer kegs.
It could be. Yeah, I read about the horse, but maybe it was more than one animal. Who knows?
Maybe. Who knows?
But anyway, the
legend is fluid.
Yeah, exactly. We'll leave
like
it
a Doppelbock.
Exactly, my friend. Like a beer river that rolls through the hills, like all the way down to Rome.
Exactly.
So he's traveling with this pack of animals and disciples. One of these animals was carrying his luggage, and all of a sudden a bear appears and kills this animal that is carrying his luggage.
Hopefully he didn't drink the beer.
Yeah, no, hopefully he didn't. But according to legend, like what the Saint Korbinian did is that he talked to the bear and told him, like, well, since you killed the animal that was carrying my luggage, now you will be carrying my luggage. And the bear accepted without, apparently complaining or anything, and took on the luggage. And that's why we see here on the beer itself, right in center, right above the name.
There's the bear.
There's the bear carrying the luggage. And
okay, but I have so many questions. Because, like, also on the actual Weihenstephaner website, it says that Saint Korbinian charmed the bear with his extremely high levels of charisma, and the bear just decided to follow along. So there's different angles of this, but he had enough charisma to charm the bear. But you know what my theory is on this, my friend? I think, they say charisma to charm a bear. I think he just charmed it with beer.
It's possible.
I really think that he just lured the bear with delicious Doppelbock.
And we all know,
we all know bears like Doppelbock.
It's very readily accepted that bears love Doppelbock. So I'm sure that
it's sweet, kind of like honey, right? It's a little...
Exactly. So what is interesting also, that I found, is that in the legend it says apparently that once they reach Rome, the bear then just roams back to his homeland. So he just was
what
there.
What an ungrateful bear.
Yeah.
Seriously.
Right.
It's basically a forest beer. in the Italian forests down near Rome.
Yeah, right.
Are there bears in Italy? Is that a thing?
I mean, not where I grew up. Maybe like in some areas more remote or higher up in the mountains.
Italian bears. What an epic legend. I think it's time to break open this delicious, I'm assuming delicious Korbinian. And I could taste this for the first time. Let's do it.
Let's do it, my friend. I'm excited that we're able to make this happen.
It's going to make a nice addition to the beer cap box too.
Oh, yes. And speaking of which,
wow.
it hasn't gone away. I just
Yeah.
have it here on the side. So still
There it
legend.
is. Oh, what an aroma out of the bottle. Look at that.
Right.
What a beautiful dark beer. It is so strange for me to pour out a beer from Weihenstephaner and have it look like this.
Right? Look at this color.
Because up to now, I mean, I've tried the Hefeweizen, the Hefeweizen Dunkel, and the Vitus. This is the first non-wheat beer of theirs that I've tried.
Oh, yeah.
Oh. That's interesting. Stark beer. Do you know anything about that term?
Yeah, that means strong beer, and it's a designation
Okay.
used to define like,
It's like stark. Okay.
how the alcohol percentage. Dunkel, obviously, because being dark. Technically speaking, like you mentioned, like this falls into the Doppelbock category.
Aroma cheers, buddy.
Aroma, cheers to you, my friend.
What do you think?
Yeah. This is probably one of my favorites of the Weihenstephaner offering. I love how you're immediately struck by these deep, rich, roasted aromas like that. Start leaning into some like slightly stout character, but there's this one descriptor.
Oh, that's what I was thinking. Yeah.
Yeah, this one descriptor that always comes to me every time I smell the Korbinian: pizza oven crust. And it specifically has to be like a wood oven where you have like those very rich and dark aromas that are coming from the crust. There's this caramelization going on. Obviously, there's malt. There's a little bit of toffee almost. Figs. Those are the descriptors that come to me. But the strongest one really is that crust, that pizza crust that has been like in the oven that is just coming out of that oven. I don't know. It might be because of that, but this to me is a 3 on 3. I just, every time I smell this, I'm always like struck, and I just like want to get into the glass.
If I knew nothing about this beer and you just handed it over to me and I didn't see the bottle, I didn't see anything, and it looks like a stout. It looks like kind of like an Irish dry stout, and it smells like an Irish dry stout. Kind of almost like the Guinness Extra Stout, but not as potent on the roasted character. But then you get like some notes of like a sweetness under there too. Like you mentioned, figs, dark fruit, chocolate. Yeah, this is like, I am literally salivating right now just smelling this over and over. I would agree, man. I can't find any faults on this. I can't find anything lacking. It's a 3 on 3 aroma for the Korbinian. Now, finally, I'm so excited. This is the best part of beer brackets, okay? The fact that this beer, I bought this at Total Wine in Florida, coming to visit you. We thought maybe we could try it together, bring it back on the plane. You put it in a Ziploc bag for me, which is very nice, which my wife laughed at. It's like, if it explodes, Ziploc bag's not going to do anything. I was like, it might. Give Alessandro credit, okay? Because he thought to put it in a Ziploc bag for me, which was very thoughtful. And so came back all the way back to Montreal. And now finally, this beer making its journey from Freising, Germany, all the way here, getting to taste it with you, buddy. Such a pleasure.
Cheers, my friend. Cheers to you. Oh, yes.
That's really good. Oh my God. Holy Korbinian.
Holy Korbinian. That's a good exclamation, my friend.
Oh,
That's the appropriate exclamation.
this is good. This is a good beer.
So rich. It's a beer that even just without getting into the finish, just the taste is taking you on a small journey. Almost like a fruit forward sweetness, like a dried fig, a date, like are probably the two descriptors that I would use. But then it transitions into this roastiness, but it's, well, on the nose, I think it leans more towards the stout. Like I think on the taste, like it mellows out on that, like, but that like pizza crust, I stick with that, and that's because it's almost slightly burnt, and that's the only thing I can think of that really resembles that. Wow, this is a 3 on 3 for me, man. Like, what do you think?
I'm having trouble separating what would be the taste and what would be the finish, because it takes you on such a ride.
Mm-hmm.
You taste something initially, and then 2-3 seconds later it changes to something completely different, and then 2-3 seconds later it changes something completely different again. How do I separate this? What's the finish? What's the taste? Jeez, I gotta take another rating here. Wait.
Yeah, take, my friend. It's encouraged, especially the first time you experience this beer. It's a lot to unpack. There's a lot to unpack.
You're right. Yeah, those stout characteristics that you get on the aroma, there's still a little bit there. Bready, burnt bread bitterness that you get on, let's say, like a dry Irish stout. But then there's like this undertone of like dark chocolate. You can get like something sweet like a vanilla, of something creamy, almost like a milky kind of, like a lactose-like flavor in there too. Prunes, raisin. It's all there, all mixed together, and it all just pops up at different points as you're tasting this. It's a 3-on-3. Yeah, it's definitely a 3-on-3 taste for me, buddy. Wow. Mouthfeel, beer bracket tradition. We got to do a little bit of a mouthfeel refresher here.
Let's do it, my friend. Let's do it.
Freshen up this beer to get an accurate mouthfeel rating. Beautiful, beautiful carbonation of.
A lot of times with Doppelbocks, I find that it's easy to lean towards the almost like oily stickiness for the fact that they are so rich on the malt presence, right? But I find in this, while it obviously there is a bit of that element, but I find it incredibly light, 7.4%. It's high, but it's not super high, and that like provides body to it without being, too excessive. Very lightly mineral and lively character to the carbonation compared to a lot of other Doppelbocks that I've had. This is one that I always tend to go back to, and now experiencing again here with you in a review setting, I really see how all those elements are really placed in a very strategic way. So I'm going to stick with a 3-on-3, my friend, because so far I can't find like very many flaws.
We are going to have to sound the amber beer alert, because we're halfway through the review officially once you give your mouthfeel score, and we so far have a perfect beer on our hands. This is tough. I agree with you. If you're comparing it to its peers, like for example, the Salvatore, right? The Salvatore. Like you said, a little bit of that oily stickiness on the mouthfeel of that beer, a lot thicker, slightly more like syrupy characteristic to it almost.
Good descriptor.
This one drinks again like an Irish stout, I think. Like it has that sort of light body, sort of like that sharp carbonation, fizzy head, palate cleansing characteristic to the body of it. I'm a little torn on this one. It just washes over your palate in a really sort of refreshing way.
I take readings.
Sorry, I'm taking my time here because this is a very important rating. Whenever we're deciding whether or not we're going to let a beer onto the Perfect Beer Roundtable.
It's important.
Oh, I'm going to go 2.5. The body of it is like a little bit thin, which is nice. If there was like a little bit more carbonation there, if it was like a little bit sharper, I think this could be absolutely fantastic. For me, just personally doesn't feel like a perfect mouthfeel, but as good as you could get without just being perfect, I'm going 2.5, buddy.
Hey, that's a great score.
Sorry
that's
to break that perfect beer streak.
Highest the way you can go. I think like for most beers, like 2.5, it's it's like the top of the scale. The last bit is always comes down to a bit of how the beer is speaking to you, which is important.
Right. Yeah. That difference between 2.5 and 3 is very much like, how is it speaking to you? How does it making you feel in that moment? Does it feel like this is like a 3-on-3 unique experience? Maybe that's a better way of putting it for me. It doesn't feel like a completely kind of unique experience in the context to warrant the 3-on-3, but fantastic. Oh my God. All right, buddy, finish. What do you think? This is going to be interesting.
Incredibly complex, like still, and that's one of the reason why I like this beer. Sometimes, we've in reviews, we might mention like how beers are great because of their drinkability, and some other times is because of the fact that they're so complex. I think this beer in particular, for me, has this unique is at this crossroad where drinkability is kind of like crossing paths with complexity, and it's to me that's kind of rare. That's why I regard this beer as one that I personally like a lot. I finished that it's not incredibly overpowering. It's very subtle. Again, I've had this beer before, so it might be the fact that I've meditated with it like a little bit longer. It really speaks to me the way it presents the elements. So that's why I'm going to still stick with the 3, my friend. I'm sticking with the 3. What do you think?
Yeah, I think you put that perfectly. Like, you have all the complexity in the taste, and then there's this really sort of refreshing kind of bitterness on the finish that gives you something different. Yeah, it's kind of like a clean break on this whole journey that the taste takes you on. It's interesting. This beer is so complex. I am going to stick with a 2.5 on the finish, I think. Just because it's a little bit less complex than the taste, it serves a purpose. And I'm starting to notice this as I'm getting a little bit more through the beer. That kind of like sharp bitterness. Again, I'll use the example of like a dry Irish stout, that kind of sharp sort of roasty bitterness. It's starting to get a little bit distracting, and it's in the sense that it's all that I'm noticing the more that I get through the beer. Not a bad way, just like 2.5 again, still extremely high score. The good thing about it, that bitterness makes you want to go back and take another sip to get that like sweet chocolatey elements from the taste again. So it's kind of like this circle where it keeps you coming back for more that I really, really appreciate. So now as an overall beer experience, buddy, from beginning to end, I think for you, your score might be pretty obvious at this point, but what do you give the Weihenstephaner?
Yeah, obviously, like you mentioned, like I'm leaning towards a certain score, but let me just say this.
Yeah.
Something I think important about this beer is that, for me at least, is that I've had an opportunity to experience this before. And this has given me the chance to really understand like some things about it that like resonate with me. What I appreciate about it, what has always like led my me going back to it, is the fact that it's has that lightness mixed to this complexity, mixed to the fact that it's still a Doppelbock. And I think those 3 elements to me are what is making me give the 3 on 3 also on the overall, because when I think about Doppelbock, if I had to name one, this is the one that I would go back to.
Yeah, I think this is probably my favorite Doppelbock that I've ever had, I would think. The overall beer experience doesn't necessarily have to take into account all the other scores you've had before. Exactly. Like for me, thinking, how has this been for me from beginning to end? This has been unique. I've never had a beer like this before. It's obviously masterfully done. It's light in body, but flavorful, full of character for a beer that's over 7% ABV. I'm going to give it a 3 on 3 as an overall experience, even though I gave it 2.5s there. This is fantastic. I've loved it. And, for me personally, subjectively, picking apart, nitpicking, the little elements there, the aroma, the mouthfeel, I gave it a slight, just under perfect rating. But man, it still is an overall experience for the Weihenstephaner Korbinian. 3 on 3, no doubt. So obviously for Alessandro, it is an Alessandro perfect beer, which is becoming a category in itself, my friend. I think there's quite a few beers that you have fallen in love with during the review process and given the stamp of Alessandro's perfect beer approval onto it. And this is one of them. For myself, it came out to a 4.66 on 5, which in our rating system is an outstanding beer. Thank you so much for joining us, everybody. Let us know down below. Have you tried the Korbinian before? What do you think about it? Where does it stand in the halls of Weihenstephaner for you in terms of all their offerings? Where do you think it ranks? Let us know down below. And if you do want to join us again in the pub moving forward, click that little beer bell down below, and YouTube will let you know when we're in the pub having a beer, so you can join us.
That's very important. And no matter what, don't forget to close your beer brackets.
Never forget to. Cheers, everyone. Cheers. Watch out for bears.
Yeah, they're dangerous.
No, if you do see one, offer it a beer.
Yeah. Doppelbock, if you can.
That's the key.